Oh man, it's so good to be back here. The atmosphere around this event is really special.
The hotel right here, everything about it is a perfect setup for an event.
The culture we have here, the people are amazing.
Such a cool vibe and crowd here to be able to connect with.
This is the greatest event probably on the tour that we've had for a little while.
Welcome to the show. It is finals day here at the Corona Bali Protected, presented by Hurley. And here are the competitors left in the mix for the title here, getting here nice and early. Some warm-up sessions from, well, basically pitch black this morning. Italo's been on fire throughout the contest, has an opportunity with a victory in this event to get right to the top end of the ratings and put himself in a great position before we head over to Uluwatu to finish the contest at Margaret River. Mikey Wright, the wild card, on a tear. He's going to take on the man in the background there wearing that yellow shirt, Michel Perez. And Michel, we know he's had that magic board throughout this contest, but he did crease that board. He's had it fixed. I wonder if it's going to perform for him here today as we look to get stuck into the semi-finals for the man. Ronnie Blakey, joined by a big wave surfer and a man who loves to throw it up on the back end here at Karamas. Strider Wozalewski, this is going to be a lot of fun.
Good morning, Ronnie. Good morning, everybody. We are so excited. I'm just looking at the draw and really taking note of all the performances that we've seen so far. We know that Michel Perez has been a peak performer. We know Jordy's been through the roof. We know Italo's been through the roof. One surfer that has not really come out of his skin yet, which worries me, is Mikey Wright. What if he clicks into that gear, the next gear, and he could just go ballistic? I'm like, I just got chicken skin thinking about it. He could really perform to another level that we haven't seen yet.
Let's get the full rundown on what's to come and the order of things today. We'll say a good big morning to Kuiper.
Morning, Ron, and let's get the schedule for today. I'm here with the Commissioner, Corinne Perot.
Yeah, it's finals day today. An exciting day of surfing, I'm hoping, coming up. We're just kind of been trying to time it right between that tide push. You know, we know the wind's going to come up again around midday, a little stronger today, so we've given it as long as we can. We're going to get underway at 9 o'clock. We're going to have 35-minute heats. Going to give as much time as possible for everyone to get out there and put on a great performance.
Wonderful call, KP. Look forward to a great day. Finals day, guys.
Cheers, Kipes, and looking forward to getting updates from you out in the field as we wear through the finals. But this is what everyone's chasing, these amazing trophies for the Corona Bali Protected. I don't know how they're going to get them home, but it is a special honour to take this thing, Strider.
Yeah, it looks a bit like Italo when he's on a wave. His eyeballs coming out of his head. He's so excited on a wave. And you know what? I love it. He's been so pumped throughout this event.
I think it kind of looks like Geordie in his paddle battle with Gabriel Medina the other day. Breathing fire, but he is amped. A big turnaround for Geordie Smith. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch, isn't it? He's really way behind where he was this time last year. Hasn't even been past the third round until this contest. So Geordie has a bit of work to do, and the way he's surfing, he's going to be hard to beat.
You know, sitting down there at 25th, he's going to climb the ladder quite a bit, and with that, he's going to be excited, and he's going to come out cocky, and like he has been this whole event, and that's a dangerous Geordie Smith.
Let's have a look at the run through to these last couple of heats for the men. Michel Perez in dangerous form, looking sharper than just about anyone. I think his heat wins have been the most convincing throughout the contest so far. Mikey Wright, some great buzzer beater moments for him. A couple, in fact, up against Julian Wilson. And yesterday we saw him in another big one with Willian Cardoso. But the conditions, how are they going to factor in, and does your pick for the event winner change at all as we go into the semis?
You know, it really, it's hard. It was hard to get to this point for everybody because you had so many different conditions, but I don't feel like at this point in the event anything is lending to one surfer or the other. They're all lightning fast. They're all capable on the lip. They all ride the barrel well. They've all got so much energy. The one thing I really do like is that there is a goofy footer there in the mix.
Oh, you love it.
Who's, well, I mean, that backhand attack, you can't deny the quickness in that pocket. And the only other guy getting close to that, I feel like, is Michel Perez on that magic board that he had fixed that he's riding. And was, you know, that we saw the board absolutely going as fast as it could, making it through his last heat.
It's a good pickup. And when you look at Italo's run through this draw, as well as he's been surfing, it's been somewhat measured. He's been really pacing himself well. I feel like he's got a little bit more to give. I think yesterday we were surprised. He just managed to get the big numbers without doing anything too explosive. And just when it looked like he was safe, already on his way to the semis, he tried to throw down one of the biggest turns of the contest, landing out on the flats and really risking it all. But that's why we love him.
Yeah, and he's going to go for it. We've seen him do it. We got that 10-point ride out of him on the Gold Coast a couple years back, and that was just like one of those moments where you're like, he can do it on one maneuver, on one wave, and he's never out of it. So that's the gold there that he holds in his back pocket.
We know that yellow Jeep Leaders jersey is already going to go with someone else after the event here for the men. But for the women, it's on the line for Lakey Peterson. If she gets the victory over Tyler Wright in the women's final, she will be the #1 heading over to Uluwatu, and that's a huge prospect.
Yeah, she was so excited, actually licking her chops yesterday when she saw Stephanie Gilmore on her last wave, at her last attempt. She needed a 4-point ride. She came out on the corner and went down. Didn't come through with the maneuver. Unfortunate for Stephanie Gilmore. Lakey Peterson just kind of looking a little bit sneaky, you know, a little cheeky with the eye and a little smile. So she really is enjoying this moment.
Yeah, that's something we saw a lot from Steph last year, and she's going to try and really wipe that thing, I guess, off her radar going into that next event, because she's been solidly finishing her rides off and performing well under that pressure. But the pressure's certainly going to be on Lakey. She did really well, I think, to win that first event, get that breakthrough victory, but didn't stay in yellow for long. Steph just a little too strong, and Tyler's going to be so hard to beat. She just looks so solid on this wave, and she just has that incredible variety. I think it's fair to say we haven't seen the best of Lakey in this event just yet.
That's true. Her timing hasn't been perfect. She's been coming up to that lip. She was a little shaky on some of the bottom turns early in the event. Then now at this end, she's hitting that lip at a perfect time. But then coming out of her turns, she's not really riding that rail line to a completion like she likes. And I think that's because this wave has a little more power, but she might just get used to it today.
Hasn't comboed up the moves as well as some of the other competitors, but in amongst her rides, Lakey's still been throwing down those razor-sharp frontside wraps with all that body talk. So she's definitely in a great position here.
And still going excellent on scores. So, you know, anytime you're going excellent, you are doing something right, which obviously has been taken note by the judges. Tyler has been out of control, and she doesn't even think she's like getting the score. She paddled by me after she got the score in her heat yesterday. She hit the lip so hard she blew the tail out. I don't even think she tried to. Spray was everywhere, fins, the whole thing was happening, and she paddled back out thinking, I don't think I bettered it. I go, like, in my mind, I'm going, you just like annihilated the lip. Like, why wouldn't you think you got it? And she did, but it was just an interesting look into her psyche, thinking she needs more.
There is going to be more lips annihilated in this first heat than maybe any other in the contest today. We've got Michel Perez going up against Mikey Wright in semi-final #1.
It's time for the men to kick off. Mikey Wright taking on Tahiti's own Michel Perez.
The shape of the wave, you know, it's a good opportunity for me to show my surfing.
Michel Perez still hot all week long.
My results pretty much reflects my capability.
Michel to be called a favorite to win this event.
And he has not missed a beat, has he?
We've got Mikey driving through a pit. It spits him out. A big answer. Mikey not getting phased.
How fun is this going to be? Michel Perez taking on Mikey Wright. Both have similar kind of tools. They're both great tube riders. They get out on that open face and they really let go of some powerful turns. Michel Perez, he's definitely going to be marching up the ladder in 7th position. Kicked off the year with a couple of quarterfinals, the 32-year-old, and just in devastating form at the moment. He really has a nice sharp blade under his feet, Strider, cutting through those turns with a lot of power. Mikey Wright, his blade might be a little more dull, but that just means he just chops into the face of these waves and really leaves a deep cut in the wall anytime he lays something down.
Yeah, they both have that brute force, right? I think, like you said, Michel's blade seems to be a bit sharper throughout the event. He broke that blade, or he got a big chip out of it. He had to go get that blade repaired. It took him about 5 hours. The board was back at the house. Brandon Gilmet saying, these guys over here are the best in the world at fixing boards. He made it through his heat on that very same board yesterday. So he's got confidence in the board. Moving on, I cannot wait to see Mikey Wright really light it up.
We'll have a look at it. It was a pretty significant buckle, but I can definitely vouch for the board repairers here in Bali. I used to bring broken boards here on holiday to get fixed because they just get them done so quick. He had the board back in his quiver in a matter of hours. So there it is. But it is going to change the flex pattern somewhat, isn't it?
Yeah, it will. It definitely isn't as magic. He said it's not the same, but it's got a new paint job on it, so he got a little bit of extra on there, and he feels like he's loving it here. I talked to him this morning. He was very relaxed, excited, ready to go out and do damage. And all we need is, Mother Nature to show up to the party, because these guys are so ready to lay into the wall. And they do say, it's not the arrow, it's the Indian. It's all about the guy behind that blade, that surfboard, that golf club, any of it. It's the person and their mindset and what they are going to do that day.
Definitely, and he is in a really relaxed place at the moment, just moments away from kicking off semi-final number 1. Mikey Wright taking on Michel Perez. Can the wild card overcome the most informed surfer of the contest to get a shot at a win here? A massive opportunity for Mikey. He's had a few wild card opportunities now, doing a lot of damage, and if he keeps progressing, keeps collecting points, and cracks the top 22 at the end of the season, he could qualify without that QS, keeping in mind that he is sitting at number 3 on the qualifying series at the moment.
And down at 34th coming into this event, he still has the Margaret River event, the Bali Pro over there to finish up. At Uluwatu, it's going to be pretty fun to watch him in that event too. So he's going to climb up so far because he came in at such a low place. That seating was tough for him coming into this event. He had some huge hurdles and challenges to get started.
Well, looks like the boys are sitting pretty deep out there at the moment. Michel Perez, the veteran in this situation, taking that inside position. Rosie Hodge watching on. Rosie, are the guys in position to capitalise on a set wave that comes through at the moment, or are we seeing just that push for the inside unfolding?
Good morning, guys. Yes, we are seeing them a little bit deeper than we used to on that typical takeoff position. And just to note, that tide is still a little bit low. It's going to start filling in. But yeah, the boys right now just sitting up top there. They're probably going to move their way down, but pretty mellow at the moment. Both of them looking like stone.
How's the crowd looking from the lineup, Rosie? Pretty big numbers turning up for finals day here.
We love it, and I love to sit out in the lineup and hear the cheers and hear the appreciation for the good surfing, especially in those clutch moments. Yesterday when Mikey beat William Cardoso, the beach went mad, both for William's wave and then Mikey on the answer back. So I'm sure we're going to hear more of the same from the massive crowd we have on the beach.
Looking forward to hearing from you throughout the exchanges, Rosie, and picking up on the final details from the channel out there here at Keramas for the finals of the Corona Bali Protected, presented by Hurley. We're underway with Semi 1. Michel Perez, Mikey Wright, sitting deep at the moment, waiting for an opportunity. And I love just looking back on the history of wildcard runs in the sport, Strider. We've seen some magic ones, probably none better than 2008. Bruno Santos going on to beat another wildcard in Manoa Drolet in the final over in Tahiti, but it's been a while since a wildcard's broken through for a victory.
Yeah, they come in hot. They really want it. I think they have nothing to lose. And then once they start to progress through rounds, you start to see the wheels come off. You start to see the pressure set in. You see that lack of time on the tour settling into their spine. And that's where we get to see either, the strength of them and how much they can dig in and how mentally clear they can stay. And this man right here on screen, Mikey Wright, has seemed to settle right in and have a great support system with his family, obviously, but also he's pulled back on everything else in his life. His fitness, his health, everything else is so laser focused, and you're seeing it in his performance and the result here.
I think Mikey's a good shot just tactically at matching it with the world's best. But I think you're right. Any time you see a wild card in an event, they look more dangerous in the earlier rounds when they're having to overcome the most formed surfers in the world before they get to the later heats. That's when the actual expectation of that big result starts to set in. The anticipation of breaking through and maybe getting yourself a huge finish is starting to become a thought at the forefront of your mind, and then you lose your focus. It was amazing that Bruno Santos, who really didn't have any Championship Tour experience, managed to go on to win that final in Tahiti that year. But, I mean, he always had a huge advantage with his tube riding skill. On the women's side, Tyler Wright was the last wild card to get a victory. And she did that a couple of times as a wild card. Had a win at Sunset in Hawaii, but also that amazing victory as a 14-year-old in Sydney, Australia. So this is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Can the form of Michel Perez carry him through? Can Mikey Wright hold his nerve here?
I think so. I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised by Mikey's ability above the lip, and that's going to set him apart from Michel.
Kaipo has been watching the conditions closely all morning. Kipes, it seems a little smaller than maybe yesterday. How's that going to factor into the criteria and what the judges are really begging for from the surfers?
Well, Ronnie, we're hoping for a tide push, right? That's number one. And then when we look at criteria, how are we going to get the big numbers? Of course, it's going to be innovation and progression, combination of major maneuvers. Technical barrel riding is always going to get rewarded. And of course, degree of difficulty, where the surfer does the maneuver on the wave.
Talk to me about the crowd down there at the moment, because different parts of the world well represented here on finals day. You've got a Tahitian, an Australian, a South African, and a Brazilian in the mix.
Oh, the crowd is on point, and we also have, VIP sitting here at the commune pool as well. And those are people are having the WSL experience via Airbnb, and we can learn more about that at airbnb.com/surfing. So there's a variety of people, variety of ways to see the action. I'm excited for finals day.
Thank you, Kipes, for the update on the criteria. Let's see what unfolds here on this opening exchange. 29.5 minutes to go. And I mean, the thing I've been impressed about with Michel Perez, his performances so far throughout this contest, Strider, is just how relaxed he has appeared. Mikey Wright's going to really have to just settle his nerves, and I think his hunger for a big result here, because Michel's in a happy place. The way he came into the new season was pretty remarkable. Didn't have any kind of an off season. He basically got married. He talked about pretty much partying his way up to that first event, and he went on to a quarterfinal finish.
Yeah, well, you see it when they're in a good place. Stephanie Gilmore was in a great place in Brazil. Catching up with her, watching her social media feed and seeing where she was mentally, you could tell that she was just having a good time. You could see the smile on her face, the light in her eye, and she went on to win the event. And that's the same kind of thing that, we're seeing out of Michel Perez, which is really fun to see. When you come out of that situation, you've got all these things in your life that have pretty much, been probably goals since you were little. Growing up, you look up to seeing, the marriage, the kids, the home and a career, and really just having success at the end of that, being happy, which is the most important thing out of all of it. And he has that right now. He's in a happy place.
His 10th year on the Championship Tour, well positioned on the ratings. You saw those 2 quarterfinals, also still alive in the mix from the Margaret River Pro event, which will finish at Uluwatu, the Uluwatu Pro, the most mobile event we've ever had on the Championship Tour. 3 venues it was initially, now we've got 4. So we went from having the box, North Point, Main Break, Margaret River. Now we jumped the channel. Here we are at Ulu's in Bali. But Michel has a huge opportunity right here. The most consistent performer at Karamas. He made the final here last time the event ran in 2013. And he's just picked up the ball and continued to run with it in 2018.
I wonder how that water feels out there at the moment. We'll see if that little bit of chatter that you're seeing, is that little bit of wind? Is that going to affect the surfing? I don't know. Rosie could probably give us a little insight on that. But if that wind does come up a bit, we could, like we were talking about, that above the lip game could just play right into Mikey's favor.
That wind, that texture on the water might be coming from the nostrils of these 2 animals who are going to be fired up for our big finish here on finals day. Great to have your company once again. Talk to me about the addition of Karamas and what it's delivered.
Well, the greatest part about this is that you heard everybody talking about it in the beginning of this. When we opened up today, that piece was so telling as to how excited the athletes were to come here and surf, both men and women. It offers you so much on the tube, on the face, on the rail, and in the air. It's everything. It's the full package, and that's exactly why the athletes are so excited to come here. It's why we were excited to come here. It's a no-brainer. You get to watch these guys come out of a barrel, do a huge face carve, and possibly finish with the biggest air ever, which we haven't seen yet, which hopefully we'll see today. But that is exactly the form that we want to see out here.
Rosie, it's interesting, isn't it? You think about Karamas, you think you're going to see guys flying high in every single heat, but this wave really lends itself well to a powerful approach as well, some big rail turns, and that's kind of been the recipe for all the 4 competitors remaining in the mix.
Definitely. We've seen all of these surfers have to rely on different strengths through the round. We saw huge barrels on that first 2 days of competition, some big airs, but the power surfing, to me, those are the fundamentals, and coming to the forefront. We talk about this location being so special. From a spectator's point of view, you're a stone's throw from these athletes, watching them perform incredible feats on these waves. So that's also another thing that's just bringing that energy from the crowd right here to the lineup, staying at commune, sitting in the pool, and a lap of luxury, watching the best surfers in the world compete.
Yeah, it's a good pickup. I love the fact that the crowd is really close to the competitors. I think it works for them. We do have a few events on the schedule where it's a little bit more out to sea. And, you know, right here, those big turns are right in your face. And some competitors really, I think, rise with that crowd on the beach. They're lifted by it. Geordie Smith, in particular, is one guy that every time he's won a championship tour event, it's in front of big crowds who make a lot of noise. So you'd like his chances today. But I think when you start to consider the speed that these competitors are surfing with, and I think just the form that they're showing, me personally, I think that Michelle Perez and Italo kind of have to be the favourites going into the semi-finals. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I'd have to agree to disagree just a bit with the first part, because I feel like Mikey, we haven't seen him in his moment yet. We've seen so much on his social media feed. We've seen so much going on above the lip that we haven't seen here in this event yet. And that's something that I really think that if he could just step into that zone, throw those punches, it'll set him apart.
I know exactly what you're driving at here, because Michel Perez, we've seen him looking so sharp throughout, and now he's on this board that, you know, he performed okay on yesterday, still looked brilliant and had a convincing victory, but in the earlier rounds, there was sort of no question. Once he locked in his scores, it just didn't feel like anyone was going to get near him. Mikey Wright, on the other hand, might have saved his best for finals day here. Let's hope so. 23 and a half minutes to go. And we know that if we get to the 20-minute mark and there hasn't been any scoreable rides, that we'll get a fresh clock for this first exchange of the day.
Yeah, the hardest part about this seems to be every time you blow the horn, Mother Nature says, oh, you want me to go? Well, I'm just going to take a little chill, and I'm going to pull back a little bit just for you. But, you know, every once in a while we get pumping waves right away. This happens a lot, and I was wondering if I could get to Rosie on that question. Just, are they sitting too far up? Are there little waves inside that they could be catching, or is the position they're in the spot?
Well, you know what, guys? We have actually seen the competitors drift down. The only set that we've really seen hit the lineup was that kind of medium-sized one. None of the surfers were in position for that. So you were so right. The ocean has taken a bit of a breath, but Strider also, it's still pretty shallow on this reef. So maybe with that bit of a push, we'll see something. But hati, danger, danger. It's still shallow on the inside here.
Yeah, it's that inside section. It's claimed a bit of skin from the world's best throughout the event. Coco Ho got a pretty good graze on her side, and I think you got to commit. It's just like Margaret River, that final section on the rights there. You'll leave some points behind if you don't attack it. We're going to get this semi-final started with Mikey Wright taking a wave that's not really going to fetch a big number, but the competitors can really settle into the typical takeoff zone now.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. I thought about this at the beginning of the heat, and I didn't want to say anything, but in one of Michel Perez's post-heat interviews, he said my strategy was to pull the athlete up high, get them out of position so that their first wave wasn't good, and then I would have priority.
Well, that's okay if Mikey Wright doesn't turn this rebate into something special. Attacks that first section, gets a little caught behind. First wave came through at a 1.5. That one's probably not going to be much better. But sometimes you get some separation from that person sitting on the inside. You can bank something. But certainly Michelle Perez is going to have a big opportunity here in the opening stages with priority now.
Well, now we're going to see a kind of rapid fire flow if the waves keep coming in that inside corner. There has been a few little waves in there. Both of these athletes totally capable of getting massive scores on smaller waves. We've seen throughout this entire event that the bigger waves aren't necessarily the highest scores going through the heat.
That second number just dropped through, a 1.9 for Mikey Wright, 21 minutes remaining. Kaipo, a lot of people coming down to watch finals day, but with that other event unfolding over there at Uluwatu, maybe the competitors area is a little quiet.
Yeah, it is quiet, and we can see the attrition throughout the boards. Michelle Perez boards left here, Tyler Wright, Mikey Wright, and Lakey Peterson, of course, Italo warming up right behind me. So, yeah, the board rack is actually less populated than when we first kicked off this event, Ron.
Hey, Kaipo, what kind of boards do we have? They're just stock standard short boards? Are they riding a little bit of a smaller board with more high performance and fins? What do we got?
What I got here is primarily squash tails, a couple of fuller round tails, Mayhem's, Paizel's, DHD. You got some tractors here from JS Industries and Channel Islands.
Wow, beautiful looking boards. And you know what? There is no doubt while the competitors area is quiet here, the lineup at Uluwatu is probably choked with competitors taking the opportunity to get warmed up before we kick off the remainder of the Margaret River event. But here we go, Mikey Wright up, wave number 3 for him. And he's just keeping busy under that priority, just trying to build some kind of score. It's going to be hopefully another throwaway wave for him. Michelle Perez holding that priority on the outside. Have a look at that little funnel unloading on that inside reef. We did see some fun waves during the warm-up session, so we know they're going to come.
Well, something to take note of here is that the waves are running really fast. The tide's still pretty low. I mean, we had a low this morning around 6:30, so we're not that far off of it. The water is pushing in. We are going to see the swell come in, but with that, you're going to have a really fast funnel, and as the size drops, it moves in on the reef to shallower water, which makes the wave even faster.
Let's echo today's criteria. Kaipo took us through it earlier on. What will the judging panel be looking for? Innovative and progressive manoeuvres. That combination of major turns in the most critical sections. We've seen so much of that throughout this contest. But it's really just reinforcing the basic criteria for the championship tour. But any time that there's a little bit of a decrease in the swell, innovation and progression really sort of starts to come to the fore, doesn't it? That's what the judges really start to throw the big numbers at.
Yeah, it will, and we will see that, I'm sure, in this heat out of Mikey and even out of Perez. I've seen him go tail high above the lip and just, big lofty fin throws, and it's a little harder to do on the forehand. We're going to see him get that torque going, turn those shoulders into it, and definitely come away with some power surfing. He's going to build that house, that foundation, and then try and start to get to that next level.
Yeah, he's spot on. He'll definitely throw an air, but at the moment his rail turns have been so reliable, and there's been no denying them. He's surfing with a whole lot more speed than everyone else in the field at the moment with those turns, and they're so clean and just moving so much water. He doesn't lose any speed in those moves. In fact, he gains momentum, and the sequence of those big carves is undeniable. It's excellent surfing, and it seems to be fetching him huge numbers in every heat.
Definitely. He's got to be a little itchy at the moment, though. I mean, we're sitting there waiting for waves, nothing on the board yet. You can imagine how coming out of his skin he must be to just ride one. I mean, you can only contain yourself for so long, and then you have to unleash. Look at the clock. It's been
almost
a long
13
time
minutes
since we've had a real set come through, and it just leads you to believe it's got to start at some point here. And I can't wait for it.
Yeah, 35-minute heat. So Michelle's waited a long time for this opportunity, and the pressure's going to really be on him now to convert this next ride. Mikey Wright doesn't have anything of substance, but, you know, Michelle, as we said earlier, has an opportunity to really put something solid on the board here. I think what's been impressive is Mikey Wright's ability to stay in the heat until the hooter sounds. A couple of big buzzer beater moments for him moving through the past couple of head-to-head rounds.
Yeah, beautiful surfing. Switching it up a bit, throwing the tail out. Distribution of weight through the fins and to the rail. But like I said, you know, nothing crazy yet, which has really been fun to watch. This wave right here for Julian is where he lost the heat. I mean, he had the opportunity, had the wave, needed the score. Maybe the pressure got to him there. Or maybe just, you know, couldn't see the rail.
This was a close heat. Willian Cardoso up against Mikey Wright. Willian getting so barreled on this wave. Had a decent number, left Mikey chasing an excellent score. And then right behind him in the final stages, the Australian tapped into a pretty decent barrel of his own.
The boys were psyched for the Brazilian, the crew, the storm, everybody excited, walking up thinking, oh, I got this in the bag, and then looked out to see this. Mikey Wright driving from behind, a little more technical on the tube ride, comes out, really pumping through it, and it spits and lets him out. So then goes into a rail grab, cutback, made that look a little bit better than Williams, and he finished off, you know, down the inside there. So them giving Mikey the nod, and he walked through that heat, and, you know, hats off to William. He had a great run through this event, and that wave was absolutely perfect that he had. I would have felt like I won the heat too. And then look over your shoulder and see your opponent on the dying seconds catch one.
The deeper barrels have scored really well throughout the contest. And Mikey certainly stuffed himself way back in that one, rode over the foam ball for a minute. But like you said, it was an important heat for Willian, trying to climb up from the bottom of the leaderboard. The quarterfinal finish will definitely see him go a long way up the leaderboard. So yeah, he's looking to keep his year on track.
Sitting back at 26, so he's definitely going to take a lead.
14.5 minutes remaining, and we're yet to see Michelle Perez take a ride in this first semi-final of the day. Stay with us. This is the Corona Bali Protected, presented by Hurley. Finals day, we've got Mikey Wright, the wild card, up against Michelle Perez in semi-final number 1. A 35-minute heat. We've got 13 minutes remaining. Michelle Perez still doesn't have a ride. This is wave number 3 for Mikey Wright, I believe. Finds a little bit of room to move, just bashing away at this one. No priority, so wants to get it a couple of scores on the board. You can see how shallow it is there on the end section. Meanwhile, Michelle, his patience might be paid off here. One of the bigger looking sets of the semi so far. Nails the first section. So much power unloaded in that turn. This board's still looking mighty fine. He did buckle it earlier on in the event, but still performing well. A lot of confidence. Just dropping the hammer on that first section.
Somebody call an ambulance. There's blood everywhere. This guy just tore this wave to pieces. That first turn on the money. Second turn solid. Tiny bit hung up off the end there. Cleans up the corner. Finishes, tried to throw some progression into it. I love it. Michelle Perez, the patience pays off. Watch this turn. Comes into it with absolute corner speed and just wraps those shoulders back into the corner. Look at the spray flying off the top, is perfectly placing that board in the transition of that wave and absolutely letting everybody know that that board works just fine, my friend.
That was unbelievable. And Mikey Wright on the replay, Strider.
So Mikey catches a much smaller wave. It looks like he's riding that same board, almost the board almost looking a little long for the rail, looking a little long for that wave. He's going to have to get himself on something a little more substantial. But how fun was it to watch Michel Perez on that opening turn after all that time? You were just wondering what it was going to be. The Tahitian, the Spartan they call him, just going to work as a gladiator in the corner.
So much flair, 11 minutes to go. Numbers coming through for Michel Perez are looking solid. Mikey Wright, that was his fourth wave. That last one, it was a 3.67, his best. But Michel Perez on his very opening ride drops a 7.6. Rosie, pretty impressive with Michel. The speed he's surfing with at the moment, he's still able to get that deep bottom turn and square up in the bowl for those huge calves.
Two beautiful maneuvers, but actually watching Michel kick off that wave, you could actually see him exhale. I think he's been holding his breath up until that point, so you could see that pressure lift off his shoulders once he got that first ride going. And what a ride it was. What a statement to make on your first ride of the morning.
It would have been a pretty reasonable number, or probably the best number of the heat so far on the first turn alone. The fact that he added some extras really is going to make him hard to beat, I think, here. A 7.6 with just over 10 minutes to go.
It's fun to take another look at it. Just perfectly hit the coping on that corner. It's so crazy to see how much rhythm, momentum, and flow after days on end of competition that we've had out here, Ronnie. This guy is continually in the right place on every wave and just putting the board in the perfect spot. It's just, as a surfer and what we know of surfing, it's so hard to do this time in and time out over and over again. I mean, that is such a picture-perfect carve for that section.
Love it. Where some competitors have really struggled with the timing of hitting that first bowl section, Michel Perez hasn't second-guessed himself once, getting away from the face of the wave, drawing out that bottom turn, and the speed he's carrying off the bottom is blinding, and into the bowl on a steep section. That body torque, I really think, helps him rip his board down that really cupped out face. So hard to do out here.
You know, the awesome thing about this wave is that it literally says, hit me. It wants you to attack it.
And Michel's going to now try and find a backup, a smaller ride, but without priority. Has a look at this one. Nothing wrong with that first turn. Transitions nicely over the section. Again, finds a nice little bowl to rip into. And that'll be a pretty decent number. And more than likely, it's going to get the edge over Mikey's highest score, that 3.67. But out wide, Mikey Wright is paddling, eyeing one off at the moment. This one's going to push a little too far off the reef. He's going to let it go. He's got priority on the outside, so holding his nerve there.
Look at how perfect that wave was, too, to sit back and think, okay, I need a better one. Whew, I love it.
Well, Mikey learned some lessons in the earlier rounds of this contest, didn't he? Had a hasty approach in the lineup. I think you've got to have that somewhat in the three-man heats, but he went a lot of waves that weren't really setting up on the reef quite right, and he ended up finding himself clamped inside barrels. He just pulled his head in a little bit and started to really select his waves wisely. He did well then. Here's the replay of Michel's last ride.
Well, you know, the surfing, the timing, everything that you want to have coming into these little waves to try to better your scores is all obvious to me. The thing that's not obvious, the thing that we can't see, is all the time and energy Michel Perez has put in on the off time to build his core strength. Does a lot of jiu-jitsu, does a lot of training where he puts himself in a position to tap into that. And that right there was a perfect example. Small wave surfing, you exude so much energy. You are doing all the work. The wave isn't doing it for you. And that's something that we have to take note of right here, is that, you know, this man has been doing so much work on the off season to have that core strength to do the surfing he just did.
I think it's just in him also. It's just the genetics. He's just cut from stone. And he's just dropped a 5.5, Michel Perez, to extend his lead. So edging ahead of Mikey right here. Mikey needs a 9.43. And Perez, who did finish runner-up to Joel Parkinson in a close final all those years ago, 2013, is a really good shot at cracking the last heat again here at the Corona. Bali protected, presented by Hurley. Italo, he's got a lot of crowd support down here for good reason. His surfing is something you can really cheer for. Easy to get behind.
Yeah, and I'm just glad I'm not calling that heat from the booth, because obviously, being a goofy foot, I'd be turning up the volume. I love the backhand approach of that, man. I'm just so psyched on seeing a goofy footer down the line as the last one in this heat and waving that flag.
I don't think it matters which way you stand when you're watching Italo.
Yeah.
Everyone can appreciate the kind of surfing that he throws out. Just his projection across the lip while unloading power is almost unrivaled. He can slide that board just like a skater does on the coping of a ramp. And, well, he's got his work cut out too, because Geordie, much like Michel Perez, has been really attacking those first sections with some of the bigger calves that we've seen.
Yeah, he's been so fun to watch. He's just got such a great tempo at the moment, coming up into those waves and really letting the board and the rail free into the bowl and jamming his turns down. It's going to be so fun. It is going to be fun to watch both these guys clash, see who comes away with that win. Both of them amazing humans on the outside of the water as well. Just so fun to talk to, get into conversation, the little things that they're doing, watching them around the event site. You get so much insight as to where they're at. It's so fun.
So just around 5 minutes remaining now, and this is going to be a tough one. We know that Mikey has held his nerve well in some close heats and fought his way back into the lead, but he hasn't been left chasing a 9.43 with this amount of time on the clock. So this is a huge situation that he finds himself in.
No, I have to ask the question, Ron. Is there a 9.43 out there, and what does that look like, right? If it's on the table, what's an athlete going to have to do on a wave like that? And to me, they're going to have to go bananas. They're going, I mean, we saw how well Michel Perez surfed his wave and came up with a 7.6. So we're looking for, 2 points more than that.
Well, I don't think those big barrels are out there today. So even if you got yourself tubed, I doubt you're going to get the kind of reward that we saw for, say, Geordie Smith yesterday, 9.57. I think we might have to see the turn of the event in order to see a 9.43 dropped. And Mikey's going to try and lay it down now. Driving off the bottom for this first section. Digs in. He has to go hard at it and just overdoes it a little bit. That's the way Mikey approaches those calves. He doesn't have the big drawn-out bottom turn. He likes to keep as much speed as he can and draw a high line, a mid-face bottom turn, and rip his board down. But just fell over the rail there. This is now going to be a really difficult situation to turn around for the Australian.
Well, he's up against it because right here he has a section and just catches in that front part of the board. You see the nose as that rail dipped in, and I said it earlier, the board looked a little long, and I feel like it again, there's a lot of surfboard out in front of him there, and with the transition of the wave being so cupped out and the size not being there, it's a different tempo to the wave as far as what board you're going to ride, and I feel like that board looks a little bit out of place on the wave for Mikey Wright.
Well, speaking of boards, we've touched on how sharp Michel's equipment has looked. Geordie Smith's been experimenting with some different shapers throughout the year, and he looks like he's found something special in a Chris Gallagher shape. But Michel up again. Look at the lightning quick speed of this guy in transition. So trying to replace a 5.5 there. Really interesting. We've been talking about Michel being in a happy place strider. The surfing doesn't match the personality at the moment.
Well,
you go to the competitors area, he's throwing handshakes out to everyone. It's good morning, brother, good morning. Everything's cheery and chirpy, and he goes out here and just hammers these waves.
If it's not broken, don't fix it. He's been doing this entire event, as you said, in form and absolutely staying in that place. He hasn't wavered or left the veracity, the psych, the speed, or the explosiveness. And there's something to be said about the surfboard under his feet, because even with a little buckle in it, that technology pushing through the firewire, still having pop and really giving him what he needs out of it.
Awesome stuff. Those fast twitch fibers. Rosie really working for Michelle. He's not one of the guys that always gets referred to as the fastest on tour, but I think he's a pace above everyone at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Just watching him fit that big frame into these smaller waves, just so much trust in that rail, getting parallel on those bottom turns to the wave. And yeah, he's unleashed it. It's been interesting to watch the ball of stress being lobbied back and forth throughout this heat. I mean, Mikey got that quick start. Michelle Perez took a long time to get that first exchange, but now it sits squarely on Mikey's shoulders to have an answer back, and there's only a tiny bit of time left, Ronnie.
Well, there's just no time. In fact, just over a minute remaining, and Michelle just improved his situation, dropping a 6.7 and turning a wave that really had nothing into something pretty special. So he has now comboed Mikey. He needs 2 waves, a total of 14.27 here. It's over for the wild card.
Nighty-night. Michelle Perez putting Mikey right to bed. Tucked him in. Tight, those sheets are really nice and tight. He's not moving out of that. He's actually got a swaddle. He's an infant at the moment. And he's not getting up or rolling over. There's nothing he can do to make his way out of that, but a sportsman that he is, giving him the thumbs up there, looking back.
Yeah, amazing performance from Michelle. And really the pressure was on. There's 30 seconds to go here, a 35-minute semi-final, and he got past the halfway mark before he took that first ride. And man, oh man, did he deliver a 7.6. And the backup was super impressive. So each of his rides was better than Mikey Wright's. And that's the reason he put Mikey in combo. We're going to take a quick break. We've got another big semi-final clash for you around the corner. Jordy Smith up against Italo Ferreira. And we're going to bring in Joe Tappel and Martin Potter for the call. Jordy Smith starting this one off deep in the tube.
Raw on the rail surfing. That's the kind of stuff we love.
In a beautiful place like Bali, there's really good waves on offer, so that's always really motivating.
But Italo at the moment alive on this ride. He's going to take to the air for us. Huge backside air reverse.
I was like relaxed and enjoy myself, and I just want to surf.
Happy finals day from paradise here at Karamas for the Corona Bali Protected, presented by Hurley. Italo Ferreira and Jordy Smith fighting for a spot in the final. Ferreira getting things started quickly. Backside hack on the roof, incomplete. Handing Jordy priority. Joe Tappel, Martin Potter in the booth for the call. Here's Jordy. Looks like he's got a fun-looking wall stretching out. First turn, nice and clean snap. Layback power car for Smith. right into a vertical hack, carving his way through this inside corner. Winding up for another wrapping cutback with that tail slide finish. Italo falling, Jordy making him pay for it on the opening exchange.
Joe, I have not seen Italo Ferreira put a foot wrong this entire event. Wave number one in the semi-finals comes unstuck. Jordy Smith, as you said, makes Italo pay dearly. What's his turn here? That's what we've been seeing from the big South African. And I'll tell you what, for a big guy, he is so nimble on his feet, so light, so fast, and yet so powerful. So incredible start there for Jordy Smith. He's going to lock in a great score. What an interesting scenario. I mean, we've seen, you know, Karamas obviously come on, and we were saying we're going to see some of the biggest high-flying aerial maneuvers ever, but it's been that rail game that's sort of been the order of the day. It's been that rail game that's taking these guys all the way.
And also looking at Italo's biggest numbers, it's been to that hack in the pocket, throwing it vertical and finishing on demand. Rosie Hodge in the water for the call here. Rosie, Italo falling on the first wave. We weren't ready for that in the booth.
Yeah, definitely. And just watching Italo paddle out before getting to the start of this heat, he was actually singing. He kind of had, you know, that little bit of a paddle to him, you know, how Italo does. It was so cool to see. And, yeah, it was weird because he did fall on that exchange, but he did have that bit of extra oomph in his surfing. Always talk about that next gear you want to get to at this point in the competition. Whereas Jordy, watching him take long strokes back out to the outside, he looks settled. He looks, you know, at peace. And let's see if Italo can rectify those wrongs on this ride. Send it back to you, Joe.
Ferreira, first turn, big whip in the pocket, driving hard. Drills it vertically for the third time in transition. Fourth one, more of a carving hack in the pocket. Now belting that same move a few more times. Still has a little wave left and snaps it shut. Turns around to see Smith throwing water to the sky. Rock and roll float. There's that layback, drawn out down carve. What a battle we have on hand. Ferreira trying to throw it up again for the Goofy Foots, winning the event at Bells on his backhand. Looking sharp in a tighter transition at this high-performance wave at Karamas.
Yeah, that's more like it for Italo Ferreira. A nice comeback after a wipeout on wave number one, but right behind him, the big South African Jordy Smith, wasting no time at unleashing the beast. And again, beautiful transition between maneuvers, nice and clean, mistake-free surfing. Mixing it up, showing the judges that variety, that speed, power, and flow, ticking all the boxes on wave number two. Italo Ferreira tries to get himself back into this heat. Connecting with that first turn, that's better from Italo. Nice and vertical again, he snaps aboard in the pocket. Italo Ferreira, look how light, look how fast, look how dynamic he is on wave number two, Joe. A different surfer and puts his first good score on the board. I dare say he is back.
That backhand is incredible to watch. Italo Ferreira, the 2015 Rookie of the Year on the World Surf League Championship Tour, battling with all-star rookies like Wiggly Dantas that season. Italo made a crucial final along that run in Portugal with Felipe. Dealt with some injuries last season. But one thing he was able to accomplish at Bells relatively early was making it into the final series. The year Wilco went all the way and took a win, Italo was in the semifinals against Matt Wilkinson, so it was almost no surprise to himself when he went one step further, made the final, and beat Mick Fanning this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably one of the more difficult things you could ever want to do is beat Mick Fanning at one of his favorite spots on tour, Bells Beach. But, I mean, he's just solid. I mean, from the get-go, Joe, this kid came on tour and he really showed us what he was capable of doing, taking down Kelly Slater at Cloudbreak in 6 to 8 foot waves where everyone thought that's going to be his weaknesses, but I don't think this kid has any weaknesses. He charges in big waves. He's great on his front side, big solid turns, good in the air, great tube rider. I mean, this kid's going to go a long way. 2013,
the Tahitian Michel Perez made the final. 5 years later, he's done it again. Michel is with Kaipo.
Michel, the Iceman, nerves of steel. 22 minutes before you caught your first wave, you made it count for a 7.6, but just talk to us about the mental fortitude to sit there and stay focused.
There were so many good waves, I mean, not really good, but so many waves before my hit started, and I just told myself, okay, he can get like 3s, 4s and stuff, but if I can get the right one, I'll get a 7 on an 8, you know, so it doesn't really matter. That's why I kind of pushed him on that little one, and I wanted him to just to go on anything so I can like put myself in the right spot, you know, so it actually worked.
Yeah, sure worked out for you. Speaking of working out, your board's working out incredibly. We know you had it creased and repaired. How is the equipment holding up?
oh, the body's still there, you know, and the flex is not the same. But you know, at the end of the day, it's okay. Like I was going 110%. I was probably like pushing a little bit too hard, I think, on some turns, just because I wanted to make a big difference between him, because I knew he could do some big airs, you know. So I was like, okay, I have to make difference with my strength. And at the end of the heat, it worked out well.
2013, you were the runner-up. 2018, how are you going to do one better?
It's going to be a tough one. Jordi and Italo in the water right now. They're like both great surfers out here. Italo has been like super amazing. He was staying right in front of the hotel, and I could see him like surfing like 4 times a day, you know. And it's just a matter of like who gets the right one. And I just hope like for the final, the waves will get better. It will be more consistent, and I hope we're all gonna make a good show.
Congratulations. We'll see you in the final.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Kaipo. Great to hear from Michel Perez back in the final after 5 years waiting to go one step further to take a win out here at Karamas. Meanwhile, Italo up, backside, tail high, whip, almost pulling it off in the flats. Starting to freestyle a bit, didn't have priority as the numbers are in for the last exchange. 7-1-3 for Ferrer's backhand. Meanwhile, Jordi Smith a 7, then 2 at 8.0.
Yeah, wow. Jordi Smith playing the patient game, Joe. He's looking for exactly what Michel Perez was looking for. Just those bigger waves. You know, that hi-fi act that this kid possesses. He can take off on these smaller ones and do something crazy like that. Almost pulling that off, but kind of throwing the board a little bit away, landing sort of a bit off kilter right there. Incomplete right there for Italo Ferreira, but making it quite clear he's not going to sit still. He's going to try and catch waves under the priority of Jordi Smith.
Mikey Wright congratulating Michel Perez, thanking each other for the battle in the first semifinal. What a result for the wild card on tour. As we know, they keep points, so he's got now a great role of potentially qualifying for next season, where then he'd be a rookie on the top 34. He already has a great start on the qualifying series, but he might not have to worry about it if he continues to post big results like this.
Has that ever happened before, Joe?
Well, it was sort of the Seabass story that year, where he had fallen off tour, got a win, and KP kept getting him on tour with more events after that success. You couldn't argue with that. Seabass kept his spot, was back on the Dream Tour, and forgot all about his big QS campaign that he was originally focusing on that season.
Tell you what, Mikey Wright, semi-finals, he's going to fly right up the rankings, that's for sure. I dare say Kieran is taking a very close look at him for the rest of the year. But back onto this heat, a 7 and an 8-point ride for Jordi Smith sitting out the back with priority, 24.5 minutes remaining. What does Italo have to do to get himself back in this heat? Well, stick to his guns, I reckon, Joe. He's been dropping big scores with those backside hooks. If he doesn't change anything, I mean, he's been winning heats quite comfortably with the kind of surfing that he's been producing, so just stick to his guns.
24 on the clock, waves on the way. Jordi with priority will take a close eye at this wall, holding position. Ferreira needs a 7.88. She's just had a few years on tour where Jordi's into his 11th season, battling for titles on the top 34. Opportunity approaching. Jordi holds his position. Italo is going to make a move here. Has some speed, big wind up. Another tail high whip, stomps it perfectly, belting it off the coping. Jamming another big vertical, and a salute to the crowd. I don't think you could have landed a maneuver any better than what Italo just did, greasing that backside rotation, asking for a 10. What a showman.
Yeah, well, you got to ask the question, don't you? Let your surfing do your talking. Italo Ferreira just showing why this man is so dangerous, Joe. Jordi Smith not interested at all in that wave. Italo says, you know what, I see something. I see a ramp. I'm going to go for it. And geez, didn't he connect with that thing beautifully?
Unbelievable liftoff, finishing off with a little cheeky shove it on the inside. Let's take another look.
Yeah, let's have a look as he drives down the line, widens his stance, connects perfectly. Absolutely perfect rotation, landing clean in transition and straight into a couple of massive turns. Italo Ferreira, you are an absolute legend. Look at that, gives himself a clap, says, come on. And then into a little pop shove it, ride switch foot. I mean, what else do you want to do on that wave? You could not have done any more. Underneath the priority of Jordi Smith, and have a look at that score, Joe.
Unbelievable. Italo asks for it and gets it. A perfect 10 to take the lead.
Oh my gosh. Jordi Smith looking so comfortable in the lead with an 8 and a 7. Italo Ferreira answers back with a 10-point ride across the board. Now that's what we call a perfect 10, Joe, when every single judge awards you that 10. Look at this, perfect landing in transition and then straight into a couple of beautiful maneuvers. So I think that's where it came from. I don't think this little shove it through the end really came into play. It was all about that big air reverse and then through the inside with a couple of big turns. 5 perfect 10s from the judges. Let's have a look. Widens the stance, gets nice and low and connects absolutely perfect. No grab, beautiful rotation and stomps it. Absolutely perfect. And then straight into these couple of turns. I mean, that was unbelievable. The synergy between those maneuvers, straight into those next turns and bangs it up through the lip a couple of times just to say thank you very much for coming. Jordy Smith would be scratching his head right now going, I let that wave go and he drops a 10 on me. Oh my gosh.
Nothing hurts more than that. A surfer getting a score on your watch, let alone one of the best waves of the entire week performance-wise. We talked about the evolution of airs, pots, and aerial pioneer back in the day. We've seen a lot change. It used to be one major move. Just race down the line and go as high as you can. The dream was to do combinations, but to land that perfect, go right into an aggressive backside snap off the top is as good as it gets, and a well-deserved 10-point ride.
Yeah, you know, and it wasn't one of those crazy out into the flats kind of aerial maneuver. I think that's why it went perfect, because he landed in transition, came straight off the bottom and bang, a couple of big turns right after it. That was where that perfect 10 came from, Joe.
Sky high, above the lip, ton of height, and just landing it with authority. Italo now is on the loose. Jordy's still taking some deep breaths off the back because you know he's got a lot of time to search for a 914. Jordy's been getting big numbers all week, usually packing the barrel to start and unleashing one of the most aggressive frontside hooks on the open face. A guy that can do big flips in rotation. One of the most high-performance surfers in the world is Jordy, so he's already planning his attack to come back. What do you expect from Smith?
Well, I expect very patient Jordy Smith for the next 20 or so minutes. He knows now he's got to put himself on one of those better waves. It's a kind of same scenario of the final against Felipe Toledo at Trestles. He can't afford to catch the smaller ones. He's going to wait. He's going to time it. He wants one of those bigger set waves, maybe get a barrel, and then come out and unleash some big turns. Jordy Smith's got a 9.14 in him all day long out here. So with all that time on the clock, he's just got to be very patient, Joe.
Jordy's turned in amazing seasons in the last 2 consecutive years when you really focus on the recent times, because he's been involved in the title race towards the tail end, pushed John Florence in his first title run and his second with a mathematical shot coming into pipe last year. The tough part for Jordy is he just lost his lead when he had those 13th just haunt him from the European leg to pipe last year and how he kicked off the season. So Jordy in a semifinal for the first time since last year at Lower Trestles when he made the final with Toledo.
You know, we've seen a little bit of a different fire in Jordy Smith here in Bali. You know, it's something's clicked for him. You know, obviously it was that moment where he was just sick and tired of getting knocked out in that 3rd round, saying to himself, come on, you're better than this. And then we saw that fire up against Gabriel Medina in the paddle battle. You know, those little things like that can really go a long way. Add that bit of confidence, add that bit of fire, and then couple that with the talent that Jordy has. I mean, you know, I reckon his year's starting now. We're going to see bigger and better things from him moving forward.
Jordy still with priority. Italo is on the loose, which is a scary moment for Jordy, knowing that he just threw down a 10. He's going to let him run again. Ferreira freestyling through this inside track with nothing to lose here. Speed gem off the lip, belting it off the top again, and drills it shut. What a feeling for Italo with an outside shot at taking the Jeep Leaders jersey if he wins this event. So still a couple of heats to go, still 18 minutes in the matchup with Jordy. Same scenario on the line for the women's final. If Lakey beats Tyler, she'll be wearing yellow once again, heading into Uluwatu.
Yeah, let's not get carried away too soon, Joe. There's plenty of time remaining. Italo surfing incredibly well at the moment, just freestyling under the priority of Jordy Smith. Bang, beautiful turn off the bottom again, nice and tight in the pocket, and just 3 quick maneuvers in succession. And Italo Ferreira just on fire here in semi-final number 2.
After the rookie year for Italo, he got a lot of well-deserved attention, got a brand new major sponsor, and came on the season with 2016 with all these really fresh-looking stickers on his board. Already had the relationship with Timmy Patterson Surfboards, and his career was just on the rise quickly. He's a favorite to travel with for all of his teammates on Billabong because he's got this youthful energy and excitement to always put on a show. 17:20 remaining in the second semifinal, and Italo locking in a big perfect 10. We'll be right back.
I got the call about a month ago, just with the concept of making some boards for the High Line. You know, as soon as they said it, I knew what it was. I was like, wow. And then to make single fins for the waves here in Bali, kind of taking it back, like Lopez days. So I was like, cool, I can do that. I like that. I love that era. As far as surfboards go, for the most part, are still in the dark ages. We're still using the same materials we've been using for decades. To now be able to change that and get into recycled products, there's a lot more opportunities with different materials. Your normal foam on most boards you see guys riding is polyurethane, which is definitely not very environmentally friendly. We switched that to a recycled EPS. I used a bioresin, which is 0 VOCs, which means no volatile components. And the fins are actually really cool. The guys at Borreo, they started making skateboards out of recycled fishing nets. And now they've made some fins for us. I'm sure these guys will rip on anything, you know? I mean, it's the world's best, right?
We always look forward to the Corona Highline Heats and a special edition with Sage Erickson winning. Jordy's usually a part of them as well, but he's up now using priority. Big layback carve, but only good for one maneuver. Remember, Smith held priority for a while, let Italo go on the 10-point ride, chasing a 9.14, and he's still going to need that massive number. So 14.44, Jordy will now have to wait for Italo to make a decision with his wave selection. What happened here?
Yeah, I think just a misfire for Jordy Smith. I mean, beautiful maneuver, but that wave wasn't going to offer him a 9.14. He's got to be a little bit more patient. He can't play into the hands of Italo Ferreira, which he's kind of doing at the moment. He can't control this man. Here we go again.
Italo not sitting for too long, speeding down the line. A big rooftop flow, but buckles off the top.
Oh my gosh.
An awkward fall for Ferreira. Put a lot into that backhand float, came down with some speed, and he just shakes that thing off. So quickly, Jordy back with priority, 14 on the clock. Let's see what happened here.
Yeah, just spent a little bit too much time on the lip. You can see him up and on that lip there, racing along, and then as he comes down, you can see how that board kind of kinked. That was a very awkward wipeout, Joe. It can really, it can buckle your board, it can hurt yourself doing something like that. But Italo Ferreira, he's not scared. He'll huck it and let out in the flats. He's not scared of any of that kind of stuff.
I love how much time he likes to spend on the roof of a barrel, making it such an exciting maneuver. And with that impact and the bounce coming off the wave, it just bumped the back of his board.
Yeah.
Just sent him over the handlebars. But Ferreira is like known for some pretty classic wipeouts. His free surfs are some of the favorites to watch. It reminds me a lot of the creativity we see out of Mason Ho, where he's getting barreled out the back, surf and switch through the inside, and then he'll just belly flop on the sand and surf for about 4 more hours.
You know what? These guys are the best in the world, and they pretty much have the worst wipeouts I've ever seen. Why? Because they're going for it. They're putting themselves in, some of the craziest positions ever, trying new stuff, and with that comes broken boards and injuries along the way. And both these guys have had their fair share of that. So, you just got to try and maintain super fit, get yourself nice and strong, and that kind of will, in a way, eliminate a lot of those injuries. But when you surf the way these guys do, crazy things can happen.
Italo freestyling again under Jordy's watch. Anticipating another big whip. There's that big full rotation. This time he gets gobbled up on the inside corner. That rotation is brilliant to watch. He's got one of the best versions of that backside air reverse in the world. Landing forward, tail to the sky, and it's such an aggressive whip. I don't know if anyone spins faster than Italo.
No, I don't think they do. Maybe Toledo, but Toledo kind of spends a bit more time in the air than Italo. Italo spins really fast, and with that comes a little bit of balance issues, and just a little bit off balance on that occasion. As you watch him flying through the air, you can see his weight not completely over the board, so he goes into almost a layback situation, trying to pull that board up and underneath his feet again, and just no success right there. Jordy Smith now, he's got priority. He needs to be very patient. Big sets coming out the back, Joe. He's got to let that first one go. Is there a 9.14 coming Jordy's way? He sees it now. Starts to look a little bit excited. Oh my gosh. Biggest wave of the day so far.
This is the moment Jordy's been waiting for, as he's just calmly looking at this wave and decides not to go.
Oh.
So with all the drama on the beach, everyone willing Jordy to make a move, he'll just let that wave spit through the inside corner. Calmly approaching his opportunity here, deep with his positioning. One big drive, the second one puts him behind the curtain. Gets the completion. Drawn out roundhouse cutback with a solid rebound. More room, big front side whip. End section, jams it shut. Smith holding his composure, not letting the crowd tell him which wave to select. And he's going for a 9.14 for a lead change.
Wow. Well, that was definitely a good comeback wave. It's gonna really come down to, was that barrel good enough? Was it deep enough? Was it long enough? Was it critical enough? You know, did he slow himself down? Because you don't want to do that. No, he didn't. He's pumping all the way through it. Super deep, and he comes out nice and clean. Kind of got caught a little bit through it, but it didn't really hurt him into that big wrap. So Jordy Smith looking for a comeback wave, needing a 9.14, finishing strong. Big South African answers back to Italo Ferreira with just over 10 minutes remaining. Let's have a look. You see him pumping, driving through that section. That's what the judges want. They want those deep driving tube rides. And then answers with a couple of nice turns through the inside. Combination of maneuvers. That was really one of the better waves we've seen so far this morning. Obviously, Italo with one of the best maneuvers we've seen this morning. Jordy on one of the better waves we've seen this morning. Is that wave enough of a hero to be a 9.14, Joe?
We watched that finish of the inside pots. Jordy's so comfortable under pressure, even smiling on his way out the back against Italo with a big chance to jump into the final here. Now you notice that barrel, he's had so many this week, and when you're critiquing that barrel, especially for the judges, how do they react when they see your jersey get a little caught on the way out instead of that super clean exit all the way through?
Well, it was more of a technical tube, so you know, I think the ability to continue that momentum after getting clipped a couple of times and still manufacturing a nice clean exit, I think was fantastic for Jordy. If he betters an 8, he's going to chip away at that 9.14, but if he, you know, obviously that's in the judges' hands right now, I think it's going to be close. Maybe not a 9.14, but it's going to be right up there with an excellent score.
What an exciting show in the second semifinal of the day. It's an 8.93 for Jordy Smith, so not enough. Smith now needs an 8.21 to take the lead off Italo Ferreira. Strider Wazalewski can't even contain himself. What a moment. Ferreira getting the 10 under priority, and looks like Jordy's still really calm and ready to answer back.
Well, I feel like Jordy's in a great place. We watched that wave from Jordy. I went 9. Kelly's the star of the water photographer out here. He went 8.8. It came right in the middle at an 8.9, but it did better his situation, I think, so he's going to need less of a requirement as he moves through this, and he's got a great place in the heat because Italo is going to surf out of his skin. Let's take a look here at our man Jordy Smith.
Jordy going for the big tail high reverse through the inside, but he's incomplete. So now he's playing the game of without priority, going for massive maneuvers above the lip. Jordy's air is kind of like Italo's. Looks so powerful. He approaches him with so much speed. And with Jordy being such a big guy, it takes a lot of attention from the panel every time he projects above the coping. He's got 750 to find an 8.21 now. A fun-looking wave approaching for the goofy foot remaining in the draw. Italo Ferreira holds his position out the back.
Wow, look at that thing go. Good move, though, I think, for Italo Ferreira, just maintaining priority. Now, Italo doesn't necessarily need another wave, Joe. He's in a really good situation. 17.132 wave total. That's crazy good. What he needs to do is control that lineup for the next 7 minutes and 20 seconds. So I thought a really smart move there from Italo Ferreira.
What an exciting day of action and a finals day. So a lot of attention on the lineup now. Kaipo Guerrero's on the beach. How's everyone looking down there?
It is suspenseful. The drama building up on the beach. We have our largest crowd of the entire event coming out here for finals day, Joe. And an interesting point, I think you made it. The crowd cheering for Jordy Smith for that first wave of the set. Jordy having the presence of mind to wait for that second wave of the set, even though the crowd was erupting.
So true, Kaipo. Can you get any telltale signs of who they're going for in this heat, or are they just excited to see good surfing?
Got a flag right here, Joe.
Great point. Well done. South Africa really proud of what Jordy Smith has done. We've got Team Brazil on hand as well for Italo. We've got Michelle Perez in the final for Tahiti, which is really special to see all the countries representing well. Jordy Smith and Michelle Perez were part of Team World together, uniting at the Founders Cup in Lemoore, California. And great to see the momentum they built from that camaraderie and their attention, taking out all the different teams globally, that special event. 6 on the clock here. Jordy without priorities, locking in. Glassy conditions, deep on this bowl. A little too deep to score the barrel there. And the attention for Jordy Smith continues. Jordy was able to win his first 2 events of his career in South Africa, back-to-back titles at Jeffreys Bay. This is a great time for Jordy to gain momentum. We talked about the consecutive 13ths to kick off the year. A win at Karamas, going back to J-Bay with that kind of feeling would help his cause for the rest of the season.
You know what? I think this is going to be, win or lose this heat for Jordy Smith. It's going to kickstart his year, Joe. He needed that. He's the kind of guy that runs off confidence. I think mentally, physically, he's in a good space. He's in that 30-something club now. He's coming into the prime of his life, physically and mentally. I don't think a man really matures until he reaches the age of 30 and then starts working stuff out. I think up until then, you're still learning so much about yourself.
As we check out the big numbers of the matchup, we'll start off with a bang 10-point ride for Ferreira under Jordy's priority. Landing so perfect in transition, but he wasn't finished putts.
No, he wasn't. He absolutely tagged this wave, ripped it to the death, brought it through the inside, and just got nice and cute for us. A little bit of a shove it right there, keeping the crowd entertained. Italo Ferreira, just what a showman he is. And asking for the 10, well, if you don't ask, you don't get, right? There we go. Jordy Smith up and riding as well, answers back with his best score. 8.9, gets himself right back in the mix. He was looking for a massive score of a 9.14, chipping away, now requiring an 8.21. So Jordy Smith well and truly in this heat. Time now is the enemy, though. 4 minutes and 20, just under remaining. Can Jordy Smith somehow find a wave underneath the priority of Italo Ferreira? Italo looking strong, Joe, and I'll tell you what, that's what you want. You want the lead. You want that priority going into the back part of this heat now. All he's got to do is try and keep the South African at bay.
Turning point for Italo this season was definitely the Bells win, but before that it was a win over Medina in a semifinal at Bells. And Medina, obviously the first Brazilian to win a world title, and obviously a huge reputation to represent not just the Goofy Foots, but the world champions on tour. And for Italo to get past him when they're both in form was huge for his confidence and role on tour. Since then, now we see him in a chance to really fight truly for a world title race with a shot to wear yellow if he wins this event. Still, Jordy needs an 8-2-1. Remember, the women's final starting next with Lakey Peterson and Tyler Wright. Tyler Wright's first final this season. She's still the 2-time reigning world champ. Lakey number 2 in the world with a chance to be number 1 if she wins this heat coming up.
I'll tell you what, well, she's surfing good enough to win it, Joe, that's for sure. And Tyler Wright kind of looking for that next gear.
Jordy now freestyling. Remember, needs an 8-2-1. Here comes the wind-up. Massive alley-oop attempt. The crowd's always going to love that. Tough one for Jordy, though, because he's running out of time.
Yeah, he is. And again, Italo Ferreira letting that wave go. Identifying the fact, look, I don't need another wave. I just got to sit out the back here and wait for Jordy to get back out in the lineup. I don't want to leave Jordy Smith with 2 minutes because he is too good If that wave does come, he's going to drop that 8.21 without a doubt. Jordy Smith, though, trying some innovation, getting that big oop, and just that board getting disconnected from the feet, unfortunate for him. But look at the wave behind. That thing was perfect, and Italo, nerves of steel, letting it go. Smart surfing, smart decision-making right there from the Brazilian.
The South Africans have traveled a long way to support Jordy Smith in this semifinal, willing him to get another shot to get an 8.21 to match up with Michel Perez. Italo, shoulder to shoulder, holding priority with that massive 10-point ride, low score of a 7.13. And he's just not giving him any space. But remember the passion and the fire that Jordy let go in the paddle battle against Medina. This kind of defense is only firing up Jordy even further here.
You know that. Italo keeping a close eye on Smith. Is he going to take this opportunity away? Yes, he does.
Italo now is trying to turn this one into a big score. Wind up, flat spin on the rotation, picks himself back up just to get a completion. Everyone letting him hear the support from Brazil that are attending here on the beach. We're down to 1:15 on the clock. Jordy Smith will still have some time with priority.
Yeah, he will. Let's have a look at this move here from Italo Ferreira. Lands, goes into a layback, and then somehow gets back up on his feet. I mean, he is so good at that. Kind of a little bit of a messy landing, but dynamic nonetheless, creating a bit of drama. That was more of a flatter spin for me, trying to better a 7.13. Yeah, I'm not seeing it, Joe. I'm just being very critical right now. This is the semi-finals. The judges want to see clean, beautiful surfing there. Just a little bit of a messy landing. Good selling point for Jordy, though. Leaves himself out the back with maybe an opportunity with 35 seconds remaining. Looks like a little bit of a bump approach in the lineup. Here we go. Jordy Smith, 8.21 required at this point. Still waiting for that wave for Italo to get locked in.
Jordy Smith calmly paddles into his last chance to make the final. Right into the pit. It's not going to let him out. 20 seconds. Italo will take the rest of this wave through the inside corner. Ferreira feeling that he's got this with 10 seconds on the clock. He looks at Jordy one more time. Smaller inside corner. Jordy will put everything into a final move here. Going for another crazy spin. Incomplete. Italo Ferreira into the final here at the Corona Bali Protected, presented by Hurley, with now a shot to take the Jeep Leaders jersey if he can go on to win. Italo will be taking on Michel Perez in a 40-minute clash scored on their top two. You could probably say the two most informed surfers clashing for the title today.
Yeah, absolutely right. And the thing about Italo Ferreira too, he's starting to peak at the right time, Joe. We haven't seen too many crazy above-the-lip stuff from him. He's just stuck to the face of the wave, utilizing that backhand attack, and now we're starting to see him starting to light this lineup up and get that crowd involved. What a final it's going to be.
What a turning point for Italo, giving us a perfect number as he's in the final with Michel Perez. Speaking of finals, up next, Tyler Wright takes on Lakey Peterson. We'll bring in Ronnie Blakey and Rosie Hodge for the call right after.